The first number is already on the page. You see it before you decide, before you compare, before you feel anything. Shelf tag shows the old price. A cashier screen suggests a tip. A seller names a figure. Your mind begins adjusting. That adjustment feels like thinking. It feels like you are being careful, reasonable, independent. But something has already happened before your judgment even starts moving. The number did not need to be fair. It did not need to be true. It only needed to arrive first, and the evidence for that is stranger than the moment makes it look. Two psychologists, Amos Tversky and Kahneman, found the shape of this trap in the 1970s by doing something almost insulting in its simplicity. They put a wheel in front of people. The wheel looked random. It was not. It had been arranged to stop on either a low number or a high number. After the wheel stopped, the person was asked a question that had nothing to do with the wheel. What percentage of African countries were members of the United Nations? The correct answer was not the point. The wheel was the point. When the wheel stopped on the lower number, estimates fell lower. When it stopped on the higher number, estimates climbed higher. A meaningless number, openly produced by a device of chance, had reached into a separate judgment and pulled it toward itself. This is the anchoring effect. More precisely, it is the anchoring and adjustment heuristic. The mind grabs the first value it encounters, then adjusts away from it, but not far enough. The strange part is not that you adjust. Adjustment is ordinary. The strange part is that the starting point keeps ownership of the final answer long after you know it should not matter. That is why a first price, first offer, first estimate, first sentence, or first range can feel like information even when it is really position. The first number becomes the floor your thoughts stand on. Once your thoughts are standing there, every later movement feels like your own. And that creates the question the rest of the trap depends on. If a random wheel can move a judgment, what can a number move when someone chooses it on purpose? Start with a small place, because this is where the mechanism hides best. You are in a store holding something ordinary. It might be coffee, cereal, toothpaste, a shirt, a bottle of detergent. The shelf tag has two numbers. One is crossed out, one is printed larger underneath it. Your eye goes to the old number first, because the tag was built that way. The old number sits there like a little piece of history. This used to be worth more. The obvious interpretation is that you are comparing value. You look at the old price, then the current price, then the object in your hand. The lower number feels like savings. The gap feels like evidence. You may not even want the thing very much, but the first number gives the second number a job. It is no longer just a price, it is a rescue. Here is the turn. You did not compare the object to your need first. You compared the second number to the first. The first number changed the question. Instead of asking, "Is this worth buying?" the mind starts asking, "Is this cheaper than the number I just saw?" Those are not the same question. One measures usefulness. The other measures distance from an anchor. That is the 4-beat reveal in its smallest form. The setup is the shelf, paper tag, crossed line, bigger print. The misdirection is value. You think you are calculating what the object is worth. The pivot is that the old number may be doing the work before value enters. The land is simple. The first number made the deal. A suggested tip works the same way. You finish a meal. The screen turns toward you. 3 suggested amounts appear, and your hand hesitates for less than a second. You may choose the middle one, you may choose the lower one, you may press a custom amount. But the suggestions have already changed the field. They tell you what kind of person each choice seems to make you. The smallest amount is no longer just an amount, it is a signal. The highest amount is no longer just generosity, it is a ceiling. The middle amount becomes the comfortable public self, even when no one is actually judging you as closely as the screen makes it feel. The physical moment is plain, a screen is glowing, your hand is over the button, someone is waiting. This is why the trap survives inside ordinary life. It does not require greed, panic, ignorance, or stupidity. It only requires sequence. One number appears and the next thought lands near it. You can be educated, skeptical, careful, and still move inside the space the first number created. And once you see that, the store becomes heavier. The crossed out price is not decoration. The suggested amount is not neutral assistance. The first number on the page is not just there for you to read. It is there before you decide. But this is not where it stays. That thing at the checkout did not stay at the checkout. The same force follows you into the rooms where the numbers matter enough to change your life. Picture a negotiation. You have prepared, you have thought about your experience, your rent, your savings. The years you spent building a skill. You tell yourself you know your value. Then the other side names the first figure. Maybe it is a salary range. Maybe it is the asking price for a used car. Maybe it is the number on a house listing before you ever step through the door. It arrives calmly, printed or spoken as if it belongs to the situation. The first number is on the page again, only now it is not attached to detergent or a tip screen. It is attached to years of work, debt, time, and risk. The obvious interpretation is that the negotiation has begun. You believe the number is an opening position, not a command. You can counter, you can push, you can be firm. The adult world is supposed to work that way. But the starting point has already narrowed the mental map. If the first figure is low, a fair counteroffer can begin to feel aggressive. If the first figure is high, a painful compromise can begin to feel like relief. You are no longer asking, what is the decision worth from independent evidence? You are asking, how far can I move from the number they placed in front of me without feeling unreasonable? That feeling matters. Anchoring does not usually work by convincing you that the first number is perfect. It works by making everything far from the first number feel extreme. So the 4 beats return. The setup is the negotiation table, a document, a chair, a number at the top of the page. The misdirection is maturity. You think you are making a strategic adjustment from an opening offer. The pivot is that the opening offer is not just one move inside the game. It helps define the game. The land is short. The first number became the room. This is why being the first person to name a figure can matter so much. A seller with a high list price may not expect to receive it. An employer with a low range may not expect you to accept it without question. A negotiator may know the first number is unrealistic. It can still work because the goal is not always agreement. Sometimes the goal is gravity. Once gravity exists, every later number is judged by how far it falls from the original point. You can feel this in the body. A counteroffer that made sense yesterday now feels rude. A discount that would have looked small in isolation now feels generous. A concession that still leaves you worse off now feels like progress because it moved from their starting point, not from yours. This is the sliding ruler. The marks look objective, the inches look clean. But the 0 point moved before you measured anything. You can do careful arithmetic on a shifted ruler and still get a distorted answer. The danger is not that you never resist. You may resist strongly. The danger is that you resist inside the boundary the anchor built. A negotiation can feel intense, even brave, while every number under discussion still belongs to someone else's first move. Stop here. You have been treating anchoring as a weakness inside your head. That is only half the picture. The other half is ownership. Somebody gets to place the first number where you must see it. That changes the moral weight of the mechanism. At the small scale, anchoring looks like a private mistake. At the significant scale, it looks like a bargaining hazard. At the systemic scale, it becomes architecture. The environment can be built so the first number arrives from a shelf, form, a menu, a range, a guideline, or a table before you have named anything for yourself. One of the clearest examples lives inside punishment. A federal judge named Marvin Frankel looked at American sentences and argued that unchecked discretion had produced something arbitrary. Two people could commit similar crimes and receive very different punishment depending on the courtroom, the judge, the local culture, and the invisible habits of a system that had learned to call variation judgment. His criticism helped push the legal world towards sentencing guidelines. Structured ranges meant to make punishment more consistent. The intention matters. Guidelines were not invented as a cartoon device for manipulation. They were meant to solve a real problem. But once a system begins with ranges, tables, offense levels, and recommended spans, the first number does what first numbers do. It frames the argument. A prosecutor looks at a range. A defense lawyer looks at the same range. A judge sees a recommended span before hearing every human detail. A plea offer forms in the shadow of the table. The table does not decide the sentence by itself. It does something subtler. It tells everyone where seriousness begins. The room has people in it. Someone has a file open. Someone has a person sitting across from them. Someone knows the life described on paper is not the whole life. But the number is already there, and the conversation has to move around it. This is the systemic version of the shelf tag. The crossed out price told you where value used to be. The salary offer told you where the negotiation began. The sentencing range tells a legal system where judgment is supposed to start. Each one presents itself as a reference. Each one becomes a gravitational center. The validation is uncomfortable but important. You are not uniquely foolish for feeling numbers as if they carry authority. Human judgment is built to use starting points. In a world of uncertainty, a starting point saves effort. It gives the mind something to work from when the true answer is hard, hidden, or contested. But the environment learned this too. Once a number can become a starting point, controlling the starting point becomes power. Retailers can display a higher old price before a lower current one. Negotiators can name a figure that makes their preferred range feel normal. Institutions can create tables that give moral weight to a span before any individual story is fully heard. The mechanism is the same at every scale. The small moment, the serious decision, and the system all share the same hidden move. Place a number first, then let adjustment pretend to be independence. That is the matrix vision of anchoring. The world is full of numbers that appear to be describing reality while quietly helping construct it. Some are useful, some are necessary, some prevent chaos, but none of that makes them neutral. A first number can be helpful and still be powerful. A guideline can reduce unfairness in one dimension and create pressure in another. A sale tag can contain a real discount and still steer your sense of value. The trap is not solved by cynicism. If you decide every number is a lie, you lose the ability to use numbers at all. The solution has to be more exact than distrust. You need a way to meet the first number without letting it become the floor. Use this, name your number first. Step 1, blank the field. When the first number appears, do not argue with it yet. Do not accept it. Do not counter. First, name what happened. This is an anchor. That sentence matters because it separates the number from reality. It lets you see the number as an event, not a fact. Step 2, build your private range. Before you respond, create 3 numbers from outside evidence. A low number you can defend, a fair number you can explain, and a high number that is still grounded. The evidence can be comparable prices, market ranges, replacement cost, personal limits, time required, risk taken, or the cost of walking away. The point is not to invent a fantasy. The point is to give your mind a scale that did not come from the first number you were handed. Step 3. Move the zero. Restate the discussion from your range, not theirs. If a salary range is low, the useful sentence is not, "Can you move up from that?" The useful move is based on the role, the market, and the work involved. The range I would evaluate starts here. If a listed price is high, the useful move is not, "Can you come down a little?" The useful move is comparable value puts this closer to another range. You are not being difficult. You are relocating the ruler. Step 4. Ask what would change the number. This forces the anchor to justify itself with criteria. What would make the offer higher? What feature supports that price? What facts place the sentence inside that range? What risk is the estimate accounting for? A number that cannot explain what would move it is often not a measurement. It is a position wearing the clothing of measurement. Run the tool inside the negotiation again. The document comes across the table. The first figure is lower than you hoped. The old version of the moment begins adjusting immediately. You feel the pressure to be reasonable. You imagine sounding ungrateful. You start calculating a counteroffer close enough to their number to seem adult. Name your number first changes the sequence. You blank the field. This is an anchor. You build your private range from evidence you gathered before the meeting: the role, the skill, the responsibility, the cost of the commitment, the alternatives you could take. You move the zero by saying where the discussion starts for you. Then you ask what would change their number, which turns the conversation from a tug of war around their figure into a test of the criteria behind it. This does not guarantee you win. It does something more basic. Stops you from confusing their first move with the shape of reality. The same tool works at the shelf. Before the crossed out price seduces you, blank the field. Old price is anchor. Build your private range. Do I need this? What would I pay without the tag? What else could serve the same purpose? Move the zero. The question is not how much lower than before, but whether the object earns its place now. Ask what would change the number. Why was it priced that way? And does that reason matter to me? The same tool works with a tip screen. Blank the field. Build your private range before touching the glass. Move the zero from suggested amounts to the actual service, context, and your own standard. Ask what would change the number, even if the answer is only internal. You have slowed the moment enough to own it. Most of the leverage is in the pause before adjustment. Once you start negotiating inside the anchor, you can still recover, but the pull is already active. The private range must come early. It is easier to keep your 0 point than to drag it back after someone else moves it. There is no need to become suspicious of every sign, menu, form, and table. Suspicion is tiring, and tired minds anchor more easily. The stronger posture is quieter. You let the number appear. You notice that it appeared first. Then you decide whether it deserves to become the reference point. That is what most people in the same room will not have. They will see the number and begin adjusting. You will see the number and ask who placed it there. That one beat of separation is the difference between reacting inside a frame and choosing the frame you are willing to use. Return to the first number on the page. The shelf tag still has 2 prices. The screen still has suggested amounts. The seller still names a figure. The table still has a range. None of them vanish because you understand anchoring. The world does not stop placing numbers in front of you, but the number looks different now. It is no longer just information. It is a claim about where thinking should begin. That is the loop that opened at the start. The first number did not need to be fair. It did not need to be true, it only needed to arrive before your independent judgment did. Once it arrived first, your mind tried to do what minds do under uncertainty, adjust from what was available. The difference is that availability is no longer invisible. You can feel the shelf tag becoming a deal. You can feel the first offer becoming the room. You can feel the sliding ruler under the measurement. The marks may still be useful, but you know to check where 0 was placed. The person who controls the first number often controls the size of the reality everyone else argues inside. A second force waits behind this one. Once an arbitrary first value slips into place, later choices can become orderly around it, as if the false start had become a genuine preference. That force is called coherent arbitrariness.